where we are.
We're on 112A, about 12, 15 lines down at the two dots. Hake es Yoshve Ha'ir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it says Hake es Yoshve Ha'ir to destroy the city, the wayward city. So now, Taner Rabban Hachmarta v'Higmalta ha'overes makom l'makom lanu besocha v'hutchu ima im nishto u'sham lamed yom hein b'sayif u'mamonam avid pachos mikan hein b'skila u'mamonam poli. So if you have these travelers that are there for less than 30 days, they're not considered part of the city, and therefore they're going to get judged if they commit idol worship as individuals. So they'll get stoned, but their money will be spared. If they're there longer than 30 days, then they're already enough of part of the city that they'll get judged with the rest of the city. So on this, that it takes 30 days to be part of a city of a Ramini, how long does it take to be a citizen of the city? It says Yud Beis Chodesh, 12 months. Is it 12 months or is it 30 days? There's the people that are the B'nai Masa, the people that are, they're not considered foreigners if they've been there for 30 days. But to be a citizen of the city and to be considered a real citizen, that would take 12 months. The Hatanya, but the Brisa says to back us up. Hamudar Hana B'nai Ir. If you take Hana, if you make you prohibit yourself from getting any benefit from the people of this city, so then it's only going to apply to the people that are there for 12 months. If he was there for 12 months, then you're prohibited from getting any benefit from him. Pachos mikan, less than that, but if he was there for less than 12 months, then you're allowed to get benefit from him because he's not considered as one of the people of the city. Now, if you make a shvu, if you take a vow, a neder from the Yoshve Ha'ir, people that are not the citizens, but the people that are currently residing there, then if they've been there for 30 days, it's prohibited to get benefit from them. And if it's less than 30 days, then it is permitted. So here you see the same distinction between 12 months and 30 days. One, you're like a citizen, and one, you're like you're no longer a foreigner. Someone told me like a green card and a citizen, something along those lines. Okay, so Hichrim Osa, that's Kollel Sherba. Good morning. Hichrim Osa, that's Kollel Sherba. You got to destroy everything in the city. Taner about it. Hichrim Osa, that's Kollel Sherba. Pratlanix at Tzadikim. You destroy everything except for the property of the Tzadikim. Shebechutzala. So any Tzadikim's property that's outside the city, you don't destroy. That's Kollel Sherba. Everything inside the city, the Rabbos Nix at Tzadikim, Shebesocha. That's coming to include even the property of the Tzadikim inside the city. So the Tzadikim's property inside the city still gets destroyed. Shlala v'lo shalosh shamayim. You're spoiled, but not the spoils of heaven, like Hektish and Ma'aser Sheni. I forgot the food at home. Put it in the bag. We'll figure it out. That's called Shlala l'Rabos Nixei Rishayim. So it says all of the spoils, all of the booty from the city, coming to include Nixei Rishayim, even the property of Rishayim Shechutzala. So if a wicked person in a city has any property outside the city, you have to destroy that also. Why do you say that the property of the tzaddikim inside the city has to be destroyed? At the end of the day, they're tzaddikim, they're righteous. So why are these people living here? Because they have their possessions are there. Mamona. Nowadays you'd say they have a good job. So their possessions cause them to live in the city. Therefore, therefore their money gets destroyed. So you take all the bounty of the city, including even the Niksei Rishayim Shebechutzala, the property of the wicked that's outside the city. Amar Rav Chisda, ubenikpatzim l'socha. Says Rav Chisda, ubenikpatzim l'socha. It's referring to a specific property of the wicked that is able to be gathered in. It's nearby. If it's a 20-hour flight to get the wicked's property, then you're not obligated to go and get that. But any property of the wicked that's within your gathering reaches, that's nearby to gather in, so that's already considered close enough that you have to go and gather it in. Something called the depositories of the wayward city, those are permitted. So what does that mean? Meaning you don't have to destroy them. What's the case of the depositories? If it's from some other city and they happen to be in your city, so then pshita de mutarin. So those are obvious. They belong to a different city. They happen to be right now in your city. But so elamai, so lav shlalahu. So So if it's from another city and it's in your city, so lav shalahu, that's not considered the bounty and the booty of the city that has to be destroyed. The ella did who? Maybe it's your property. The isnu be'ir acheres, it's in another city. Well, hold on, that depends. But that we just explained. If it's able to be gathered in, so why is it permitted? Gather in the property and destroy it. If it's too far, it's out of your reach to gather it in, so then, well, we already said that. So what do you have to have this statement for? So look, Leolam, the Iracharis, really it's another city's property that's inside your city. The Mafkidi Besocha, they've deposited their things by you. And what case were they deposited by you? Not only did they just deposit it in your city, but you accepted responsibility. You expected that, if it gets lost, you're going to replace it. So that's already a different level. That's already somewhat like your property because you've accepted responsibility for it. Now the tema given the you would have thought that it's taking responsibility. It's so similar. It's like, as if it's yours, and therefore it should be destroyed. Kamash Malon, we learn that even though you've taken responsibility for it, however, at the end of the day, it's not yours. And since it belongs to somebody else, when you destroy all the things in your city, this would not be included. You have an animal. It's owned half by your wayward city and half by another city. Asura, that is prohibited. We view it, even though half of it is owned by a city, half it is permitted because it's owned by a different city. Well, you still say it's prohibited and it's going to get destroyed. Isa, as opposed to do, so half of it it's owned by the wayward city, and half of it's owned by a different city. So that's going to be mutar. That's going to be permitted. So what's the difference? Half of it is permitted and half of it is prohibited. And yet the dough you can save, but the animal you have to destroy. What's the difference? My timer. Behema kiman deloy pligadam. Isa kiman de pligadam. Very interesting. A little bit hard to understand. By an animal, there's no splitting the animal. So half the animal is prohibited, and it does not. And shechting is not going to help you because it's prohibited. It belongs to Ir Nidachas and has to be destroyed. The other half of the animal is permitted. It belongs to an innocent city. But Rashi explains very interesting. Rashi that when you slaughter this animal, since there's only one slaughtering, so we view it as right now you're killing the animal as per its punishment for being owned by Ir Nidachas. Once you go to shecht it, we view it as a killing because that's the animal deserves. You can no longer view that same act of killing as a slaughtering for the other half. You can't split your one shechita. Half of it is viewed as killing the animal, and half of it is just shechting the animal. And since you cannot shecht the whole animal because half of it is prohibited, therefore you view it as if you're killing the animal, and therefore there's no way to render it kosher. As opposed to In Isa, it's Keman de Pligadamia. Just 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Okay, continuing by Rav Chisda. So this animal we just said, there's no way to slaughter it. Can you at least, when you shech this animal, which is prohibited, which is owned by the wayward city, can the shechita at least help enough that it won't be considered a nevela and become impure? Nevela is the carcass that's impure. Can at least it at least be that, or even that it can't be? So it says, you kill it by the sword. So any killing it is just death. It's not going to be able to raise up from any levels of impurity. Once you put a sword to it, it's just prohibited property. Oh, Dilma gave it the shachta. No, at the end of the day, you're right. It says with the sword, but you slaughtered it in the proper kosher way. So maybe that's at least enough that it should be considered like an impure carcass, like an avela. And that the Gemara says, I don't know, take it. Bai Rav Yosef. Says Rav Yosef, say our nashim sitkanios mahu. The hair of the righteous women, what happens to that by irni dachas? Amarava, how the rishayos aser. I don't understand. You're asking by righteous women as if by rishayim, by evil women, it's prohibited. It says tikabit v'saraf taksiv. You have to gather it in and burn it. Only something which is lacking one thing, gathering it in. Here has to be first cut off. So that's already 2 steps. You have to cut off and then gather in. So the Torah says gather in and burn. Misha ena mechusa elek kvitza v'sreifa. Only someone who's lacking kvitza v'sreifa. Yatzazesha mechusa tlisha kvitza. This is excluded because it's lacking cutting off, then gathering, and then burning. It's like, what's your question? Ela marava, we're talking about pepeya nachris. Sounds like a wig. And heichidam, well, what's the case? If the wig is connected to her body, it's like part of her body. So no, lo tzricha the tale the sifta. It's hanging on a sifta. It's not really tied on. It's more like attached, lightly attached to her hair. So it's not as it's like tied on and totally knotted in with it, but it's I guess like nowadays, it's very easily detached. Therefore, he had a question: is that viewed as external, or it's viewed as as internal? So do we say if it's like attached to the body, Sorry, is it like the property of the tzaddikim in the city, and therefore it gets destroyed? She always wears it. She always goes in and out with it. So it already becomes like part of her garments, as part of her clothing, that we don't destroy. Nechasim, property is external to you. Maybe if she always wears the wig, she always wears the sheitel, that's already considered part of her clothing. Therefore, that's already internal and it will not be destroyed. On this, the Gemara says, take it. We don't know. The es shlala tikbots al toch rechova. So you take all the stuff, all the spoils, and you put it into the city square. Says Rabbi Shmuel, no square, no burning. Sorry. Torah says you have to have the town square, no square, no burning. Rabbi Kiva Omer, no. If you don't have one, go build one. So one sec, what's their argument? Rabbi Shmuel says nothing doing. Rabbi Kiva says just go build a town square. It depends how you learn the word in the Torah, the city square. One opinion holds, Rabbi Shmuel, that you had to have always had a city square. And Rabbi Kiva says the word is more, it's also could be interpreted as, it could also have the implication that as long as it right now has a city square. So it depends what the verse implies. So Rabbi Shmuel held it's referring to strictly things that were around originally. And Rabbi Kiva says, no, that's even if you have it now, that's also going to work. And out of all the stories for the last 20 daf, now the Gemara gets involved in hard kachim things. It's like, yeah. So you have to wait till the whole paragraph at the end to get some kachim in you. Okay. So we said that hekdeshos, that things that are sanctified, have to be redeemed. Those you don't burn, they don't belong to. So now we're going to go through a long brisa trying to figure out what exactly the case is in our Mishnah. And we got this. Taner Rabbanan, Hayuba Kachim Kachim, Hayuba Kachim Kachim Mizbeach. So you have things that are called Kachim Mizbeach. Kachim Mizbeach are things that are sanctified to the altar. For example, an Ola offering, an Asham offering, different offerings. What do you do with that property? We say Yamusu. So those animals are going to get killed. We'll see why. Kachim, get a bedek bias. Property you have that was donated for the upkeep of the base of Mikdash, that you have to redeem. The trumos your kavu. When it comes to truma, though, that you have to let spoil. Meiser sheni the kids that kodesh you going to. Meiser sheni and holy scriptures, things that have Hashem's name on it. We'll see like tefillin that gets buried. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Omer. It says behemta. He comes with an exclusion. Behemta has to be your animal. Below behemas bechor umaiser. Okay, so that is the brisa. Yeah, okay, no, sorry, we keep going. Shlala, it has to be your spoils. Prat lekesef hektish, the kesef meiser. It can't be the spoils of hektish, of the property of the base of Mikdash, or money of meiser. Okay, now let's go through each one. Amar Mar, Master said, how you bought kachim mizbeach yamusu. You have animals that were sacrificed to be brought onto the altar. They have to get killed. V'amay yamusu. Why do they get killed? Yiru achi yistovu. Let them graze until they get a blemish. Once they get a blemish, sell the animal and take the money and buy another offering with it. So why say you kill it? Says Rabbi Yochanan, very simple. Zevach r'shayim toeva. The offering of a wicked person is disgusting. So I don't want the money that was used for redeeming this animal and bought as another offering to the Mizbeach. That money is considered disgusting money because it came from an animal that was in the city, that was a wayward city. Reish Lakish Amar Maman Ba'elim Hu. Says Reish Lakish a different answer. The reason why you kill it is because he says Amar Maman Ba'elim Hu. Really, that money belongs to the owner. It belongs to the owner, and we're not going to say this idea of that it's evil persons that the korban, the sacrifice, is disgusting, because we're not giving up the sacrifice. We're giving the money of the sacrifice. So Rish Lakish says that belongs to you. That's fine. Rather, I have a different reason. The hacha bekachim shechayev bach reyusan. We're talking about special kachim shechayev bach reyusan, that you're liable to replace them, and that is like the opinion of Reb Shimon. He says, what did he say? Da'amar mamun bailimhu. Reb Shimon says that that there's certain offerings that you're obligated to replace. So those that they're considered your money. It's your money, and therefore, since it's considered your money, when it comes to irani dachas, it's enough your money that it gets killed also. It gets killed also. Yeah. So says the Gemara, hold on. Hamid the Sefer Reb Shimon, he racial aversion. The end of our mission told us that that there's opinion of Reb Shimon. Sounds like this part of the Mishnah is now Reb Shimon. So the Gemara says, you're right. Ella bekachim kalim. We're talking about a lighter form of holy offerings that have more lenient rules. And according to Aliba de Rabbi Yosef Glili, Rabbi Yosef Glili says the Amar kachim kalim mamun bailim heim. They're mamun bailim. They're considered the owner's money. Therefore, since it's your money and the animals are kachim kalim, they will also be destroyed in the irani dachas. But what do you do with the kachim, the very holy offerings that have much stricter rules? So, what do you do with them? You redeem them? Sounds like you don't kill them. You have to redeem them. So, Sigmar, hold on. Since the end of the Mishnah said, or the end of this part of the Mishnah said, things that were consecrated for the upkeep of the temple, those you have to redeem. So hold on. If the holy offerings, kachim offerings, you also have to redeem. So the Gemara should have stayed local. It should have said it in a very different way. It should have said like this, right? We have three cases over here. Kachim kalim, they get killed. Kachim kadashim, they were suggesting get redeemed. And then you have things of upkeep of the temple also get redeemed. So you have these three cases. So why did you teach kachim kalim and then the upkeep of the temple? stay within the offerings. For example, lifluk v'lisni b'dida. Divide up the Mishnah and teach it as follows. But kachim kalim, you can kill the animals. You have to kill the animals. Aval kachim kadashim yipadu. So if you're giving an example of an animal that gets killed, so the next example should be the animal that gets redeemed. But instead you jumped to the upkeep of the temple instead of talking about this animal. Sounds like the Holy of Holies offerings, the Kachei Kadashim, do not get redeemed. Because if they would get redeemed, you should have mentioned it. Says the Gemara, no, we couldn't have mentioned Kachei Kadashim. Really, they get redeemed. Just like the Bedek Abayis things get redeemed. The reason why we couldn't mention it is because there's an exception to the rule. Once there's an exception to the rule, we cannot make a blanket statement that they all get redeemed. What's that exception? So there's 5 chatas offerings that we have to kill. One of them is an offering that the owner dies. Halacha Moshe Sinai, a chatas offering that the owner dies, we kill the offering. We don't bring it up. So therefore, you can't just say that offerings get redeemed because we have this offering that doesn't get redeemed, and therefore lo psikale, the rule is not an ironclad rule across the board, and therefore we're not going to mention it. This Rabbi Yochanan says not like Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan has a verse. The money that came from this animal is disgusting to the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, we have to kill the animal. We can't redeem it. Ela Reish Lakish might have a lot more Rabbi Yochanan, but why didn't Reish Lakish not hold of Rabbi Yochanan? When do we say that rule that the offering of the evil person is disgusting? That's only when it's around. It's the animal itself. Here, it's a derivative of the animal. It's the money that comes from the animal, which is disgusting. That's already different. There, you don't see the money as disgusting, and therefore he doesn't say like Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. More kachim. So we just said that Reb Shimon has this teaching that has to be your animal and not the animals of a bechor or the animal of Meiser Behema. Okay, says the Gemara, well, what are we talking about? The Maya Skina, what's the case? Elema bitmimin, like a regular animal with no blemishes, nothing. So it already told us, Shalol Shemaimhu. That's considered already the bounty of heaven. That you don't destroy. So we know that already. So you don't tell me another verse tells me not to destroy a regular holy bechor animal. That we know already. Ela bali mumin. It must be a blemished animal. So says the Gemara, okay, that's shlalanu. That's just your bounty. Why should not be included? So we're stuck. Amaravina, no. La'olam b'mali mumin. Really, it's referring to animal that has a blemish. Umi shenachal b'toras b'amtecha yatsu elu she'ein nachalin b'toras b'amtecha. So really, it has a mum, and only animals that are eaten like your animals, regular animals, are included in the destruction of the Ir Nidachas. But these, even though they have a blemish to them, but they're still in the category of a firstborn bechor or meiser behema. You're still going to eat them, you still call it that you're eating a meiser behema animal, and therefore they are excluded, even though they have a blemish, and they should be considered your property, and they should be included. Rather, one second. One second. One second. These are excluded. These are right. Sorry. So, no, we're good. These are still considered like in the category of a firstborn, and therefore they are considered heavenly bounty, and you don't destroy them. And that is against Shmuel. Upliga de Shmuel. What did Shmuel say? The Amar, Shmuel says the following: Hakol kari, v'hakol nifta. Everything gets brought and everything gets redeemed. What does that mean? My kamar. What's he saying? Hachikamer, kol shekarev kishutam, whatever gets sacrificed when it's not blemished, when it's pure, v'nifta, and it gets redeemed, kishu balmum, that's called mishlala. That's called from your bounty. One second. Kol shekarv kishu tam and ifta kishu balmum mishlala imay. Sorry, it's been removed from your bounty. It's considered the bounty of heaven. If it's sacrificed and redeemed, that's considered already sacrificial. That's considered already like a holy. That's already the bounty of heaven. It's not yours anymore, and you cannot burn it in a ir nidachas. The kol shekarv kishu tam. However, if anything is brought when it is pure, the eino nifta, but it's not redeemed kishehu balmum when it has a blemish in it. Kigon bechor umaiser, like bechor umaiser, that's mibehema nafka. That's already excluded from behema. So according to Shmuel, he would argue and he would say. Yeah, he would say that these animals are still considered your animals, and they would be destroyed, as opposed to the first opinion. Reb Shimon says that these animals that have a blemish in them, they are excluded from your animals. So Shmuel said the animals would be they would be destroyed, and according to Reb Shimon, they would not be destroyed, I believe. Just 1 second. Yeah. Shmuel would say that you would kill these animals, and Reb Shimon say that they are excluded. Okay. Trumos yirkuv. If you have truma in the wayward city, you have to let it spoil. So what are we talking about? Amra Pista, lo shna ela truma biad Yisrael. About truma biad kohen, it's only truma that's in the hand of a Yisrael that you let rot. Aval truma biad kohen, but if it's in the hand of the kohen, so that's already the kohen's property. So therefore, tisari, it should be burnt up. Now, Maser Rav Yosef, Meiser Sheni, the Kisai Kodesh Yiganzu. Meiser Sheni, the food that you get brought up to Yerushalayim, or holy scriptures, get buried. Now, the Meiser Sheni, think about Meiser Sheni, Biyad Yisrael, that's in the hands of Yisrael, is like a truma in the hands of a Kohen. It's your money, you can go bring it to Yerushalayim and you can spend it over there. So, and yet we say it gets buried. Why? It should be burnt. So Ella Itmar, you're right. So it says Gemara like this. Itmar Hachi Itmar. Amar of Chista Loshna Ella Trum Biad Kohen. We're referring to Truma in the hand of a Kohen. Ala Trum Biad Yisroel, but Truma in the hand of a Yisroel. What should you do? Tinasin la Kohen should be Iracharis. You should go give it to a Kohen in another city. That's all that it's telling me. Okay. Tanan Hasam. Another Mishnah says that Isa Shal Meiser Sheni Betura Minachala. So we have dough, and we know that we take off always challah from dough, a piece of the dough. However, if it's dough of Meiser Sheni, then that is exempt from challah. Divrei Reb Meir. That's what Reb Meir says. Chachamim omrim mechayvin. No, even though it's Meiser Sheni, you're still obligated to take off challah. So now, Reb Chista is going to make the argument in one scenario, and we're going to attack it. Amr Reb Chista, machlokes b'Meiser. This whole machlokes, do you or do not take off? It's only a challah is only in b'machlokas b'Meiser Sheni b'Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, where you can use the money, there they have a machlokes. Reb Meir says Meiser Sheni mamon gavohu. Reb Meir says even though you can use the money in Yerushalayim, but it's still considered money that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. V'Rabbanan Savri mamon hedyot, who said no, then you could spend it now in Yerushalayim. We view it as your money. Aval begvulin, but if you're in the gvulin outside of Yerushalayim, divrei hakol pater. Everyone says that you are exempt from taking off challah because that's for sure viewed as already since you can't spend it yet in the Gvulin, that's not viewed as that's viewed as holy money. It's not yet your money. Okay. On this idea, we're going to ask Maser of Yosef, Meiser Sheni, because the Kodesh Yigonzu. Our Mishnah says Meiser Sheni and Kiz Kodesh, you bury. Okay, so now you bury it. So now, B'maya Skina, what are we talking about? Elim would be Yerushalayim. If it was Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim, well, Yerushalayim can't be Ir Nidachas. That's the rule. It can't be a wayward city. But Mihabi Ir Nidachas, Vatanya, Astar Dvar Nemar Yerushalayim. There were 10 things stated about Yerushalayim, and one of them is it cannot be the Zuachas and Ir Nidachas. It'll never be an Ir Nidachas. The Ella. So what's the case of Meiser Sheni in our Mishnah? It can't be referring to Yerushalayim, so it must be a different city. Bella be Acheres. So it must be Meiser Sheni that's in another city, and yet you say we bury it. But we just told you that if it's another city, then it's Petur min Chala. It's exempt from Chala because it doesn't belong to you. So then why are you burying it? So the Ella be'ir Acheres v'asku legava. Maybe you'll tell me it's in another city, but now you brought it up to Yerushalayim, or you brought it into another city that's not a wayward city, and therefore you don't destroy it. But how could that be? Once it's in another city already, so it got absorbed by the walls, so to speak, and therefore it's no longer relevant to Ir Nidachas. You bring it to another city, so now it belongs to that city, and just because your former city is getting destroyed, but you wouldn't destroy this property. So where must it be? Elalav Bigvulin. It's outside Yerushalayim. Vikatani Yiganzu, and we say we bury it. Why do you bury it? What's the reason for burying it? According to Rav Chisda, if it's outside Yerushalayim, it belongs to Gavoa, and therefore it belongs to the base of Mikdash, and there's no reason to bury it. So says the Gemara, no. Olam the Irachar. So really, our Mishnah is talking about Ma'aser Sheni. It's in another city. The Asku Legava, and you brought it into the other city. The Hakamayeskina Shenitma. Stop my case, not Ir Nidachas. It got impure. It got impure. Since it got impure, therefore you won't be able to eat it. And says the Gemara. Okay, so why do you have to bury it? So says the Gemara, Ulapirke, just redeem it. Ma'aser Sheni can always be redeemed. Why do you have to bury Ma'aser Sheni? Right now we're saying that our Mishnah is saying Ma'aser Sheni brought into another city has to be buried. Why? Redeem it. But you can't eat it. You cannot eat it. You can't eat the food. And the word se'etz is referring to food, as we see by Yosef and his brothers. I think when he asked for Binyamin to come back, he asked them, "Vayisa masos me'eis panav." Give me the masos, which is referring to food. So you can redeem it. So once again, why does our Mishnah say that Ma'aser Sheni has to be buried? If it's just regular impure Ma'aser Sheni, just redeem it. Okay. Hacha Ma'askina, what's the case? Bilakuach. You already took this money and you bought something with it. So let's say you buy yourself a bottle of wine. So now you bought money, and now bilakuach velifrike. So you bought something with it, but still you could still go and redeem it. Ditnan halakuach bekesef ma'aser shenit yifta. You can still go and redeem it just because you bought something with it, but you're still able to redeem it. Yeah, says the Gemara. Look, you can still redeem this. So we say it's going the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Yikaver. In Matzi, like another opinion that holds you cannot redeem it, you have to bury it. So that's what our Mishnah is going on. So says the Gemara, very strange. Our whole Mishnah is talking about a wayward city, and in the middle it just tells you, by the way, Ma'aser Sheni that was one time that was used to buy something, so and now became impure, you should bury it. What relevance does that have to a wayward city? So Ella, so my ir nidachas, I feel the almanami. It's like any case of Ma'aser Sheni that got buried has zero relevance to a ir nidachas, the wayward city. Says the Gemara, you're right. Ella la'olam, go all the way back. Bitahor. We're talking about pure Ma'aser Sheni. What's the case? Kigon de nafel mechitzas. It was a case where nafel mechitzas, the walls of the city fell down. So I think you brought it into Yerushalayim, right? And the walls of Yerushalayim fell down. So now, ukidirava damarava mechitza lachol de araisa. So, according to Rava, biblically you have to eat the Ma'aser Sheni within the walls of Yerushalayim. However, liklot is only derabanan. To take it out of the city, to have it has to remain in the city. You can never remove it from the city. Is only of rabbinic stature. The chigazer rabbanan ki isnu lemachitza. They only made this decree when there is a wall up. But ki lesnu lemachitza lo. When the wall's not up, they did not make this decree, and therefore, similarly here, when there is when you're talking about ir nidachas, as long as the ir nidachas, walls are up, so then,
there's no walls, it doesn't protect the
right. The only time you protect the Ma'aser Sheni, meaning if you're somewhere else and you have Ma'aser Sheni, if the walls are up, then it's protected. But if the walls are down, then it's not protected, and therefore in the ir nidachas, when the walls are down, so therefore it's not going to be protected, and therefore you're going to have to bury it. You're not going to be able to redeem it. Yeah. So if it would have walls, you would not be able to burn it. You'd have to bury it. Yeah. Okay. So that would be the case in our mission. While you bury it, when there are walls up, it's going to protect it, and therefore you're not going to be able to burn it, and you'll have to bury it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Kisvei HaKodesh Yiganzu, the holy scriptures, you have to bury them. Also, if your city is a city of ir nidachas. Matisin delok Rabbi Lazar. Tanya Rabbi Lazar Omer, Kol ir sheish ba afilu mezuzah achas iner nasis ir nidachas. Says Rabbi Lazar, even if you have a city, even one mezuzah is iner nasis ir nidachas, it does not become ir nidachas. So obviously, this is against that because this has a holy scripture, and it does not save the whole city. You just bury it. So that is not according to Rabbi Elazar. Shenamar v'sarafta be'esh ha'ir v'askol shalom Kollel v'heichadika mezuzah lo afshar. It says you have to burn the city and everything that's included in it, but you can't burn things that have Hashem's name on it. That you can't burn. Dichsiv le'isas v'kein l'Hashem l'keichem. When you go into another country, you have to destroy their idol worship, but you can't do that. You can't burn up your own holy scriptures. So therefore, our mission is not going like the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. Okay, so now Reb Shimon Omer, the end of the Mishnah says that there was a machlokas. No, not yet. Yeah, Reb Shimon says that after Reb Shimon, Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yosef they have a machlokas. Once you destroy ir nidachas, can you rebuild it for gardens and orchards, or it can never be rebuilt again? What is that dispute all about? That you have a positive commandment that you have to make it a heap, and you have a negative commandment that says that you can never rebuild it. How do you view that? Do you view as the a general rule, make it a heap? Don't rebuild it. Do you say it's a klal uprat, and therefore the second verse is coming to specify the first verse, or you say it's two separate things? So, we don't view it as a klal uprat. rather reviewed as two individual statements. So the Mar is the Rabbi Oven, Umar less the Rabbi Oven. Rabbi Akiva is not going to hold of Rabbi Oven. He's still going to hold it's like a klalu prat. So the general statement is has to be a heap. Specifically, you can't rebuild it to live in. Rather, it can become an orchard. The other opinion said no. It's going to be like this statement that it's telling you two separate things. It has to be a heap, and you can never rebuild it with no specifications. Says the Gemara, no. The Kuli Alma is Sluder Bevin. Everyone agrees to this rule of Rabbi Oven. The Hachabacham Kimiflagi. They actually have a totally separate argument. What does the word ode mean here? Mar Savar ode legamre mashma. It can never ever be built again. Umar Savar ode lekama shaisa. Or no, it just means it can't be rebuilt the same way that it was built originally. Therefore, it can't be built like that. Or does ode mean, Rashi says like va'ed, like forever. It can never ever be built at all whatsoever, and not even for an orchard or for a garden. Okay. So it can become an orchard or a garden. So if you have trees that are removed, they're usher, but if they're attached, then they are mutter. Shall iracheres be inclusion bin mechubaron usher. So irani dachas, only the removed trees are usher. The ones that are attached are permitted. A different city, they're always going to be prohibited. What's a different city? My iracheres, Amar of Chista, Yericho. Interesting thing. The city of Yericho, it says here the Haisa Ha'ir Cherem Lashem. It has to be there's a certain that Yeshua said that Yericho always has to be laid in ruins. You can never rebuild Yericho. So no matter what the trees in Yericho are, whether they're taken away or they're attached, they're always prohibited. It's supposed to be laid in ruins. You can never rebuild it. Interesting explanations why that's true, but that's what he said. Now, but Yeshua, basically Yeshua made a shvu at that time. Lamor, or each curses the person. Whoever rebuilds Yericho is going to get cursed. He'll have to establish it with his firstborn son, meaning he'll lose his firstborn son. Ubitiro Yatziv Blasa, and with his youngest son, he'll have to found the doors, meaning he's going to establish it with the doors, meaning he's going to lose both his oldest and his youngest son. Okay, let's talk more about this. Tanya lo Yericho al shem iracheres, v'lo iracheres al shem Yericho. There's a prohibition to call another city, rebuild another city, and call it Yericho, and there's a prohibition to rebuild Yericho. Dichsiv, now a whole story here. So that Banachel, this Chel, he built Banachel Beis Ali from the cursed house. As Yericho, he built it, and what happened? He lost his firstborn son, and he lost his youngest son. So says the Gemara, Tanya Ba'aviram Bechoro, Ba'aviram Bechoro. So Ba'aviram Bechoro Rasha Lo Yalo Lilmod Biskov Tziro. Hayalo Lilmod Aviram. So Tanya says Ba'aviram Bechoro. It says Aviram, his firstborn son, was a Rasha. Yeah. Oh, like this. So, Ba'avir Bechoro Rasha Lohayalo Lilmud. When he lost his firstborn son, there was no way to know that it's because of this. It's a sign that he shouldn't go and build Yericho. From there, you can't expect him to know that from over there. However, yeah, once his oldest son died, he had no way to know that was a sign you shouldn't build Yericho. But Biskov to Iro, once he lost his youngest son, then he should have understood that it must be he should not go and build Yericho. Hayalo Limud. So Aviram Biskov my oven, like, what did they do? Aviram Bechoro, Hayalo Lilmod, Leoso Russia, Biskov Tziro. Adding some words here. Yeah. Lo Hayalo Lilmod and Leoso Russia Biskov Tziro Hayalo Lilmod. From his oldest son, he had no way to know that he shouldn't build Yericho. It wasn't a sign. Once he lost his youngest son, that should have been a sign to not rebuild, rebuild Yericho. So now, Once it says that Aviram was the firstborn, obviously I know that Scope was the youngest born. You have two kids, and the oldest one is the firstborn, and the second one is the youngest one. So it means he had many children in between, and he buried one by one. So once he lost his youngest son and everything in between, that should have been assigned to him that he should not go rebuild Yericho. Okay, now whole story with Achav. So Achav was a friend of Shelchel. Achav and Chel were friends. So Asa Iyu Eliyahu Lemishal B'Shlama Beit Amya, they went to go pay a shiva call. Him and Eliyahu and Navi. Yosef Ka'amar. So he's sitting there and he says, Dilma Kamal Yoshua. So Dilma Kimila Yoshua Hachilat. So he died because of Yoshua's curse to never rebuild. Whoever rebuilds Yericho is going to be cursed. So Lo Yericho Hashem Acharis, Lo Yericharis Hashem Yericho. So Amar Eliyahu, yeah, you're right. It's because of that curse, because of Yoshua's statement. That's why you lost your children. So Amar Le, I don't understand. The curse of Moshe never came true. It says in the verse by Moshe before he died, he said that if you veer off and you go serve idols, what's going to happen to you? Incredible anger of Hashem. The author says he's going to stop the rain. So we do idols. Achav did plenty of idols, and no rain stopped. So he's asking Eliyahu Navi, like, what's going on over here? So the Ahu Gavra, Achav made idols at every single furrow in Israel. And what happened? The Mazel, the Mizgadle, and there wasn't like rain covering it, and the rain didn't stop. There was rain that was covering up the idols that prevented you from bending down and worshiping them. So laughs at the Yeshua Talmidei Mekaima. So Yeshua, his student, his curse came true. How could that be? How could he be better than his Rebbe? So right away, Eliyahu saw this, and Yomi Eliyahu Hatishbi. He was a citizen from the town of Gilad. And there's going to be rain. It's going to be all dependent on me. Eliyahu says, so now, there he davened, and Hashem gave him the special key to rain. He got and he left. Eliyahu got the special key to the rain. Go from here. Told Eliyahu, go from here and go to a place in the stream of a place called Chris. Sorry, about Orvim. And the ravens, so now there's a drought. Eliyahu got the keys to the rain, and he stopped the rain from coming to show Achav, look, no more rain for you. The curse did come true. So Hashem told him, go over there to the place of Chris, and the ravens will bring you food. So, Mehecha, where they going to get food from? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Beit Tabachit Achav. They're going to bring you food from the kitchen of Achav. Don't worry. So now, there was a drought, no food at all. There's no rain. It's caving the chaz of Ikat Tzara Ba'alma. So once Hashem saw there's a lot of tzar in the world, go to a place called Sarfata. Go over there, and there was Chala ben Isha. So there's a woman there that he stayed by, and her son ended up getting sick. So now what happened? Eliyahu bo rachmei lemesan. So he asked Hashem for permission to give him the keys of Techias HaMesim. Lemesan la aklida Techias HaMesim. So Hashem told him, you already have one key. You want the second key? There's only 3 keys I have. So Amar leh shosh matechos lo nimsu l'shaliach. 3 keys were not given in the hands of a shaliach. Shel chaya, of pregnancy, of childbirth, v'shel kashama, and of rain, and of Techias HaMesim. So Yomru Shtayim bi'ad Talmud v'achad bi'ad harav. How could it be? People are going to say there's 2 in the hands of the student and 1 in the hand of the Rav. So they exchanged. He gave back the keys to the rain, and he got the key to Techias HaMesim. I see how v'shakil high. Now go to Achav, and I, Hashem, will give the rain, and no longer Eliyahu and Navi will give the rain. Only Hashem will give the rain, because they exchanged keys. Darjo Gila, Kameder of Chisda, the certain guy from Gila, an idol worshiper. No, someone from the Galilee. He interpreted in front of Rav Chisda. Misha Eliyahu, Lamad Davar Dome, Tarki Legale, Avdi Lemiftiche. This happened to Eliyahu Navi is there's a parable to this, like a guy who leaves his gate and forgets the keys and loses the keys. So to Eliyahu, he did an exchange for the other key, and now he comes back and he no longer controls He wanted to get the key to the Techiyas HaMesim, and now he lost the key to the rain. Okay. Darash Rabbi Yossi b'Tzipori Abel Eliyahu. Out of respect, he called him Eliyahu. Abel Eliyahu. He's a captain of it. Very intense. He called him a very strict person. He called him a very strict person because he got so angry over Achav. Because I'll show you. Your daddy Moshe Rabbeinu. I'll show you. Now Eliyahu Navi Havi Rogel Lemesi Gabei. He would often come and learn with Rabbi Yossi. However, Tractate Yomi for 3 days, no show. He didn't come. When he finally came after 3 days, Amrlei, Amaylo Asamar, where were you? Amrlei, Captain Chris, you called me a captain. You called me someone who's fast to anger. I'm very strict. So Amrlei, Hadikaman, the Kapidmar. He said, look, I say one thing to you, and you don't show up for 3 days. Aha, you are someone who's strict. You are a captain. Okay. So at last, end of the mission says, as long as the wicked are in the world, then there's anger in the Hashem's anger in the world. Man Rishayim, who are these Rishayim? Rav Yosef Ganvi. As long as there are thieves in the world, so there's God's anger in the world. That's what it means that it clings to their hands. They're thieves. They're always stealing things. Tanarban in Russia, Bala Olam, Charan Bala Olam. When a Russia comes into the world, Hashem's anger comes into the world. Shinamar, Beba Russia, Ba Gambuz, Kolon, Cherpa. When he comes to the world, what happens? Disgrace and cursing and embarrassment comes into the world. Russia leaves the world, he gets wiped out. So Tova Balolam, good comes to the world. Shinamar Ba'abad Shayim Rina, when the wicked perish, is a tremendous happiness. Tzadik Nifter Min Olam, leaves the world. Rabal Olam, Yossi, 1 minute, 30 seconds. La'olam Shinamar Tzadik Aved Ve'eni Sham Alev. A tzaddik leaves, and people don't realize the Anshe Chesed Nasafin Nasafin Bayin Maven Kiyafei Ra Nasaf. They realize that when the tzaddikim are taken away, they realize it's going to be a sign that bad stuff are coming up. So Nasaf a tzaddik, he'll be destroyed. A tzaddik will be killed. That's a sign that evil is coming to the world. Tzaddik Bala Olam. Yossi, last line. Tzaddik Bala Olam Tov Olam. When a tzaddik is born, then good comes into the world. Shenamar Zayinachamenu Mimasi Yadenu Umi'itzon Yadenu. That Noach was born and Hashem was so sort of comforted from his handiwork of creating man that was so destructive, and from the sadness of his hand. Hadron Lech for Yishol Yeshem Chilek Ubasalikala Mesechta Sanhedrin. Rabbi Yossi, yeah.
Yasher Koach.
I'll say it too. Yasher Koach.